was always the one dodging phone calls from every girl that I met in my bed. But then you came around like a brick wall. You knocked me out of my head. Had me treating my Mondays like Fridays. Had me flying so high with no smokes. Almost dreaming of you always with me. Damn it, I feel like a joke. Speaking truthfully, I'm not sure why we keep fighting. You just go blame the bad timing and made it to me. Speaking truthfully, I love you more than you love me. Getting more of your time was a challenge. Had me begging you like a schoolboy. Started treating me like a bad habit. So now I'm left with no choice. Speaking truthfully, I'm not sure why we keep fighting. You just go blame the bad timing and made it to me. Speaking truthfully, I love you more than you love me. Now I know there's no use trying to get me and you on the same page. When you say that you love me, you lie. Speaking truthfully, I'm not sure why we keep fighting. You just go blame the bad timing and made it to me. Speaking truthfully, I love you more than you love me. I love you more than you love me.
I got these fresh eyes. Never seen you before like this. My God, you're beautiful. It's like the first time when we opened the door for we got used to use your room. It might seem superficial, stereotypical man. You dress up just a little and I'm like, oh damn. So suddenly I'm in love with a stranger. I can't believe that she's mine. Now all I see is you with fresh eyes, fresh eyes. So suddenly I'm in love with a stranger. I can't believe that she's mine. Yeah. And now all I see is you with fresh eyes, appreciation. Well, it comes and it goes, but I ride that way with you. It's human nature to miss what's under.
Good morning.
Well, lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside. I be war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna lay down my burdens down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burdens down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I ain't gonna study war no more. 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 Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Gonna shake hands around the world, down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna shake hands around the world, down by the riverside, down by the war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. I 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 ain't gonna study war no So we learned this one at the beginning. We're going to sing it again this morning. loving. Who could have imagined? Who could have imagined? Who could have imagined such times as these? And we will love through these times, as we will love through these times. And soon enough, we'll be loving on the other side. And soon enough, we'll be loving on the other side. This is one that probably lots of you know. Again, written by a West Coaster, Bruce Harding.
And about this, give me a tempo, Mark.
This is the day that God has made. We will rejoice and be glad. This is the day that God has made. We will rejoice and be glad. Singing hallelujah, singing hallelujah, singing hallelujah. We will rejoice and be glad. This is the day that God has made. We will rejoice and be glad. This is the day that God has made. We will rejoice and be glad. Singing hallelujah, singing hallelujah, singing hallelujah. We will rejoice and be glad. One last time. This is the day that God has made. We will rejoice and be glad. This is the day that God has made. We will rejoice and be glad. Singing hallelujah, singing hallelujah, singing hallelujah. We will rejoice and be glad. So we're going to teach you one last piece, and this comes from the indigenous tradition in South Dakota. It's called Mini-Wakoni, and we'll come to a time in the song when we're using that traditional indigenous language called, so the phrase is Mini-Wakoni, but we'll start it off in English. It's called Water is Life. All my relations come, every nation come. All my relations under the sun, we are one. Let's do that again. All my relations come, every nation come. All my relations under the sun, we are one. We are praying, come. Every nation come. We are the song and we are the drum. We are one. We are the river, come. We are the river, come. We are the boat, the paddle, the stroke. We are one. Mini-Wakoni sing. Mini-Wakoni sing. Wakoni, water is life for everything. We are the ancient ones. In your breath and bones we sing on. We are one. Many Wakoni sing. Many Wakoni sing. Many Wakoni, water is life for everything. All my relations come, come, come. All my relations come, come. All my relations under the sun. We are one. Last time. All my relations come. All my relations come. All my relations under the sun. We are one.
Thank you so much for singing with us.
If I could bottle this up, bottle this up, I would bottle this up, bottle this up, I would. 'Cause you're gorgeous in this moment. If I could bottle this up, I would. So suddenly I'm in love with a stranger. I can't believe that she's mine. Now all I see is you.
Do we know how this works?
I think you should just be able to touch it and
This?
release it. Press it and release it.
Good morning. Let's prepare ourselves for worship as we light our candles and acknowledge this land.
There once was someone who said such amazing things and did such loving things that people began to follow him. One day, they had to ask him who he was, and he said, "I am the light, come to share the good news with you." With this light, we proclaim the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. He was born to a woman in poverty in a time gripped by political oppression and social upheaval. Not unlike our own times, he knew human pain and human joy and preached of a kingdom of conscience that is both here and coming. Jesus preached reconciliation between peoples and of a kingdom of common good and good relationships. We're gathered on the ancestral and traditional territories of indigenous peoples whose footsteps and guardianship have marked these lands since time beyond the reach of memory. This is the treaty territory, and we're the treaty people. May we live in good relationship with each other and all creation. Jesus preached love, affirmation, inclusion, and solidarity. We're beloved because of who we are, how we identify, and who we love. May we always remember that the light of God shines through each and every one of us in all our diversity. Amen.
God be with you. We provide a response to the land acknowledgement every morning from an Indigenous perspective. Because when you hear the land acknowledgement, you hear the reclaiming of identities, the reclaiming of voices in their own language. It is their own way of saying we are people, we are human beings, we are sovereign. Their identities recall voices of ancestors from the far reaches of time, speaking their relationship to God, to their Creator, saying, we are your people, we are your faithful, we are your children. Nakodabi, the human beings, Nehiao, the people, Nitsitapi, the real people, Dene Sukline, the original people, Anishinaabe, the true people. Each spoke of their relationship to God here in this territory, and here they entered into their own relationship with the land, its holy spaces, and its miracles. They had visions here. They developed beliefs and theologies here. They developed practices and ceremonies that built upon their people's wisdom, relationships, and stories. Their holy places were shrines. Their sweat lodges were tabernacles. Their healing pools transcended ancestries of carefully curated wisdom about how to live upon creation. Their prayer cycles and liturgical calendars spanned the millennia of changing seasons and ecological encounters. Their responsibilities were handed down, parent to child, grandparent to newborn. This was relational wisdom. This was holy wisdom that secured their well-being because it was time-honored, tested. You passed along this wisdom because it mattered. What you knew had vitality. When we needed guidance, when we needed healing, our people sought the wisdom of the elders, the wisdom of sages, the wisdom of lifetimes of knowledge. They sought wisdom in the land. They sought stories that told them who they were. They sought trusted familiars. The sacred places where their people dwelled, spirits that helped in places that knew them best, the places that loved them, places that sang songs to them in nature, through rippling streams, wind through trees, bird song, eagle cry, howls, coyote calls, and gentle murmurings. Sometimes a comfort, sometimes a warning, but always a way of knowing they belonged, directing them through the wilderness that was never their enemy, but their teacher, one that they welcomed and trusted. To acknowledge the land in our way is a prayer, a song, a wisdom. Our ancestors' land acknowledgements were creation stories. To be acknowledged is to be opened up to the great mystery and the wisdom of an eternity of lives that evolved and mutated and transformed and realigned and reemerged, always changing, always renewing, as relationships should. To know creation is to understand its rhythm, its cause, and someday, its purpose. May we listen to our connection to nature in the land acknowledgement and learn. Amen.
My name is Nancy Chegas, and I am in ministry at Sunnybrook United in Red Deer. We are delighted to have the presence of the children with us this morning. So I would invite them, if they feel comfortable in doing so, if they would like to come up to the front so they can kind of see the actions. We're going to start our opening prayer. Oh, Declan's going to come right on front. I think you can come down there. Is that all right? Hi, Declan. Good to see you. High five. Awesome. Okay, we can do this. You can learn it as we go. How's that sound? This is a heads up, put it in your body kind of prayer, okay? So first of all, we'll start with just the words, and I'll ask you to be my echo, and then I'll introduce some actions which you're welcome to join in on as we put this prayer into our bodies. And then we will end with just the actions. See if we can do that. Okay? Do you want to go, Sam? Oh, there we go. There we are. Sage, do you want to go with this? There we go. All right. Let us pray. Please be my echo. Holy One,
Holy One,
in this day, we stand grounded
we stand grounded
upon the earth.
upon the earth.
We will sing, dance, and play
Sing, dance, and play
to the movement of the sun.
to the movement of the sun.
We give thanks
Give thanks
for what has been.
for what has been.
We open our hearts
We open our hearts
to what will be.
to what will be.
Boy, leave ye alone. You create your own actions. That is awesome. I didn't even need to make this up, but let's try it again with some actions. And if you want to make up your own, that's awesome too. Holy One, in this day,
Holy One, in this day,
we stand grounded upon the earth.
we stand grounded upon the earth.
We will sing, dance, and play to the movement of the sun.
We will sing, dance, and play to the movement of the sun.
We give thanks
Give thanks
for what has been.
for what has been.
We open our hearts
We open our hearts
to what will be.
to what will be. Amen.
Thank you, children. That's awesome. While we transition into the singing of our first hymn, I'm going to invite one person from each table to come over here and collect a jug and a stack of cups for your table. We will be inviting you into a water ritual at one point later into our worship. So.
In you and me, Spirit of life, deep mystery,
Dancing down in the holy sea,
river running deep,
river running
free.
river laughing on my birthing day. Wind and water join into play. Flows my soul through a shining spray.
River running deep,
River running free. River cry my name to me. Let me hope and memory. Singing the story of the holy sea. River running deep, river running free. Stand on the edge, looking down. Too scared to swim and afraid I'd drown. Turning courage to journey on. River running deep, river running deep. Journey on far from my home. River break this heart of stone. Dreaming love, make it all your own. River running free, river running deep. the day I die. Bear me up when my soul is dry. Carry me home on the rising tide. River running deep, river running deep. River singing in you and me. Spirit of life, deep mystery. Catch us all in your melody. River running deep, river running deep.
Let us begin this day with gratitude. If we are to work our way toward flourishing, we must begin in gratitude for the gifts and skills that we already have to work with. We must begin not lamenting what is missing, but in gratitude for our abundance. Just as a river brings life to the landscape, the Holy Spirit flows through us in this place. Everything will live where the river goes. Let's listen again to the words of Ezekiel. He said to me, "Mortal, have you seen this?" Then he led me back along the bank of the river. As I came back, I saw on the bank of the river a great many trees on one side and on the other. He said to me, "This water flows toward the eastern region and goes down into the Araba. And when it enters the sea of stagnant waters, the water will become fresh. Wherever the river goes, every living creature that swarms will live, and there will be a very many fish. Once these waters reach there, it will become fresh, and everything will live where the river goes."
Listen to what the Spirit is saying to the church. Thanks be to God. My name is Vicki McPhee. I serve at Simons Valley United Church in Calgary. Everything will live where the river goes. My good golly. In this political climate of our province's premier hanging out with sycophants of our neighbor's unruly king, in a time when the documentary Mama Bears needs to be made, in a time when we have congregations closing, this is reassuring news. As the water enters the sea of stagnant waters, the water will become fresh. Everything will live where the river flows. Thanks be to God. But dare we ask, where is the river going? After all, rarely do rivers flow in a straight line. Rivers wind through the landscape. We can see the river, but we can't always know what's coming around the bend. Rivers, as with any body of water, are not inherently safe. However, the water that flows is necessary for life. Fresh water is essential for God's creation to flourish. As Nancy and I were discussing the imagery of the river and all that lives because of where it flows, we thought of ourselves, each one of us here at the banks of the river or swimming in its shallows, being nourished by the life-sustaining water, by the Holy Spirit that flows through our lives as the river flows. Each of us grateful for the gifts that have been given that allow us to thrive. However, just as rivers bend and do not reveal its destination, so does the Holy Spirit take us into the unknown. We know that everything will live where the river goes, but we are not promised that nothing will change. Nothing will change in the ebb and flow. We are not promised this. Just as the river is changed, so too are we changed as we wind through the landscape. We are not promised that nothing will change in the ebb and the flow of the river, in the tug and pull, and frankly, sometimes the pushing from the Holy Spirit. As a church, we are at a pretty big bend right now, and we are not sure what's around the corner. We are uncertain and we are worried. We are called to be in community, to be the church together. And so Nancy and I wondered about not only what gifts we all have to offer, but what gifts does the wider church have to offer us, so that we may together navigate the twists and turns, the rapids, and even the still waters, trusting that everything will live where the river flows. And so we're going to invite you into a time of reflection at your table. What gifts have we been given? What gifts as faith communities do we offer to the wider community, to the future church? And what gifts does the wider community have to offer us? And so each table you have a pitcher and a stack of compostable cups. We are going to ask you to take some time to pour out the water for each of you into a cup and to go around one by one and to name the gifts that you have been given. You could talk about it individually. You could also talk about it as your community of faith. But pour the water out as you hold your cup. Take some time to reflect. Hold your cup and then name to one another what gifts you have been given. And then I'll call you back because I'm not going to give you all the steps at once. So we'll start with that. Don't drink the water. It's important that your lips not touch the cups. So pour the water, hold the cup, talk about your gifts, and we're going to give you just a short time, 3 to 4 minutes, and then I'll call you back.
Don't drink the water.
This is your 1-minute warning to wrap up this portion of the reflection, and for those of you online to wrap up your discussion. All right, friends, I'll ask you to close your discussion. If you have more to share, you can carry on your conversation in the break. And so now I would like everybody to take the pitcher and pour all the water back into the pitcher. So if you drank from your cup, don't do it. So you're pouring each cup back into the pitcher. This is when we find out if there's rule followers and who are not. So now the pitcher that is before you represents all the gifts and skills that you have named aloud at your table, all the gifts and skills that you each bring to the church, maybe even the gifts and skills that reside within your faith, community of faith. They are now together in the pitcher. And in just a moment, as we conclude this reflection, we'll invite you to pour out the water once again for you to drink, so that you can take and share all the gifts and skills of what people have brought together into this collection of faith leaders and people that are deep and faithful members of our community of faith who are working towards navigating the bends of the river that we find ourselves and the twists and turns that the Holy Spirit is moving with us through our lives. We are doing this together with the gifts and skills of each other. We are not alone. We live in God's world, and we have a lot of people side by side as we navigate the bends and twists of the river. But remembering always that everything will live where the river flows. And so as we conclude this, I invite you to pour out your pitcher and to each take a drink from the shared well of gifts and skills that you share amongst yourselves. We are working together to bring closer God's kingdom. Thanks be to God. And in just a moment, we will sing together. As we give you all of 10 seconds, let's we know it was coming.
Water flowing from the mountains, water flowing o'er the earth. Water comes to us so precious, living water give us birth. Drink deep, the source of life, drink deep and know. Living water sings, and living water brings the love that makes our spirits grow. Water rushing down the rivers, water rushing to the sea. Water comes to us so precious, water springing from the dry place, water springing in the sun. Water comes to us so precious, living water for each one. Drink deep the source of life, drink deep and know, for living water sings and living water brings the love that makes our spirits grow. Drink deep the source of life, drink deep and know, for living water sings and living water brings the love that makes our spirits grow.
You may be seated. And friends, let's pray together. Holy One, we are grateful for the many gifts that we bring to the table. May we walk gently upon the earth, respectful of the gifts of creation. Inspire our visions and dreams for the flourishing of our lives, our communities, our church, and all the relationships that we tend. May we go into this day with open minds and grateful hearts, aware of your guiding presence, like a river, winding through it all. Amen.
Well, good morning to you all. This is the third day, and we rise again. We have our day today, and then tomorrow is our celebration of ministry, and that will be it. So I have a few little announcements for you. First of all, a very important announcement is that Luke Heisa has a birthday today. Luke, stand. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Luke. How old are you today, Luke? You think 42? That's a good age. I remember 42. It was a good year. Secondly, each region has been asked to create a 2-minute video for the 100th anniversary celebration. And what we have elected to do is get stories about where you're from in the region and what you love about the United Church. And so the youth are going to be wandering around with a video camera asking you that question or any others that they want to ask. It has to be short. You can't, go into a 20-minute sermon. We have 2 minutes. So be thinking about what you love about your United Church. And then just before lunch, we're going to all gather. Well, I guess we could just... Chris, we could take some footage from here, and we're going to be at our tables, and we're going to say, Happy 100th anniversary from Chinook Winds region, right? Can you get that? We'll maybe. Well, David, business person, you have been tasked with finding a better thing to say, but we want to have a sweep of the conference here. It was due this week. I said, oh, man, we have our AGM. Oh, what a great idea. Go to the AGM. So... be prepared for that. I have been advised by the David Holmes who's been cleaning up after you all at night, that maybe we need to be today mindful of the stuff that we've left on the table, like recycled cans, like our garbage and stuff, and make sure that you take it away, which will make it easier for the people who strike the tables and such. And leave it all over there. Is there a place for recycled cans and such now? Okay, we're going to create a place, because some of us who are looking for blue bins all over.
But can we just take a second to acknowledge the work of the local community of faith, and in particular David, for
Yes.
hosting us? Like, wow.
Yes. Thank you so much to St. Andrews and filling in and knowing where there are places where we need to, just be present. Yes, there's a recycling bin right there. There it is. You see, you ask and you receive, and God is good.
There's been so much scrambling behind the scenes
I
that
know.
you're not aware of, and
Yes.
they've just been amazing.
They've been so amazing, and we're so grateful. And the food's been really good too, so we're grateful for the caterers. And Alan is responsible for everything, so we are grateful for him. He does AV and catering and event coordination. I mean, he's not the caterer, but organizing all that. So anyways, we have thank yous later. I don't know why I've gone into that now. Before we begin sort of with our executive report, another announcement. We have 3 retirees this year, and we had hoped we could have videos, but none of them were very excited about putting a video together. And so instead we have reports in the agenda book. Please do read them. But Glenda is here with us, and Glenda is retiring. Glenda, would you like to stand? Probably not if you didn't want to make a video, but you're here. There's Glenda. And as you're retiring from your role and doing, I'm sure, amazing things, and if the Jets win, then you'll be going to Disneyland, but or something like that. We just want to bless you as you go. So if you just want to stand again, and just pray with me as we bless Glenda. Glenda, God, Glenda has been your servant with joy and love, and as she moves into the next phase of her life, may you bring peace, love, joy, and lots of fun to her life. She's been a gift to us and to the church. Thank you for her life, her love, her ministry. Amen. Amen. All right, we're moving into the time of the executive report, and Vicki is the past chair, so she's going to take over chair of this meeting so that we can speak freely. But we're going to begin. Some of you, it's been 7 years now, right? Because this is our 7th AGM. With a new model that we've been working under, and we're still working into it. Chinook region was at an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time, because we didn't have any apparatus that we just sort of fit into. Everything began from scratch. Most of the conference staff and such stayed in Edmonton. And so that's given us opportunities to figure out how we work things and what the relationship is between the staff and the executive council. But we're still working through it and figuring out. So I'm just going to invite Trina to come and give just an overview of how our model works, so that you know when you're making your proposals for next year's meeting, where are some spots that you can fit in or you'd like to see work better.
Everybody's really excited to talk about governance, right? I know there's at least one person in the room who loves governance. So, as Joanne mentioned, the church restructured a number of years ago, and we did get to form a completely new region, which means that to some extent, not completely, but to some extent, we're not bringing the baggage of the old structure into the new system in the same way. So we get to kind of imagine a new way of being. So there was a commission that was put together, and the commission met and over an extended period of time and had many conversations about what was needed to facilitate good operations of Chinook Winds region. And those faithful folks made a decision to choose what's called a policy governance model. So why is it important to have good governance? Well, first of all, it's just important in terms of transparency, so that everyone, I guess I get to be the one to struggle with the green button here now. Okay. Not having any luck. Oh, wrong green button. There we go. You mean the great, big, bright green button? Yeah, that one. Got it. So that people know what to expect, they know how we're going to operate, they know how we're going to make decisions, and hopefully having that clarity around the way that we're operating helps you to feel that you can trust the executive and the staff in the way that they're offering leadership. So what is policy governance? So it's based on a model that's developed by John Carver. So sometimes it's referred to as Carver model. But our executive has spent quite a bit of time adapting the model with support and leadership from Dan Hotchkiss, who wrote a book on congregational and church governance. So we're not what you would call true Carver in terms of the way that we operate, but we use those principles to inform the decision. The basic premise of it is that the board or the executive governs, so they make the rules and the policies within which we manage. So it creates like boundaries or a container that we operate in. And then the staff, they do all the work that is asked of them to achieve the goals that the executive sets. But we have freedom to make decisions within the boundaries on our own. So we don't have to go back and seek permission of the executive for anything that is within the container. If we want to do anything that's outside the container, then we have to go back to the executive and say, would this be okay for us to do? So the way that the goals are established is ends. So the ends are the things that we want to accomplish. And then there are limitations that are created. So it's always written in kind of negative language. So you shall never fail to remember to stay within budget, for example. So you have to stay within those particular guidelines. And then things are delegated to the staff based on what is outlined by the executive. So the ends are what do we want to accomplish, at what cost, and for whom. So that's always the question that we're asking around our ends. The means is how we do that. So what are the means that we use? So the executive are in charge of the ends, the staff are in charge of the means. And then the ownership is the language that policy governance uses, is you all. So the executive is accountable to the owners, which effectively is the region or the communities of faith within the region. So the role of the executive is to speak for you and to act in your best interest, to pay attention to the vision and values, and to not get involved in operations, which is often the challenge because we like to know all the details and we like to have some say in the means. So it is actually probably the hardest task in policy governance is to stay focused on the ends and the policies and allow the staff the freedom to work in operations. The job of the executive is also to monitor the staff to make sure that we are staying within the container that's been defined for our work and that we're doing a good job. And then always to adapt and update our ends based on what the needs are, the current needs of the region. So we try to do our work as an executive by listening to all of you, and so we do that in many different ways, but this meeting is a really important time where we pay attention and hear what's going on. That's how sometimes you might do a proposal that would say, we'd like to talk about something in particular, those kinds of things. We use the governance and the policies to stay focused on these things. We work on being able to articulate our vision and our values, and to regularly evaluate and update our policies. This model works for us because it allows us to be nimble and responsive. So as things come up, we can respond to it. We don't have to wait for the next presbytery meeting or the next committee meeting. We can actually respond and make decisions in real time. It offers clarity around the various roles, and it's permissive in that it allows us to take action and to do our work. And because of its focus on vision and values, it also allows us to make faithful decisions. So as an executive, we work hard to pay attention to what the issues are. And so Joanne is going to share some of what we've been doing as an executive, specifically around exploring the questions that are facing the region. So we call these our big questions or our open questions, and we dedicate time at every meeting to talk about what the big questions are before the region. We host conversations. We try to connect with communities of faith across the region. So we move our meeting around periodically to try to connect with communities of faith and groups of communities of faith. So if you want to host the executive, reach out to us, and we'd love to come and hear about the ministry in your local region or area. We try to set annual goals, and to make sure that our meetings are really focused on the work that is before us as an executive, so that we're paying attention to the things that are really important to all of you. I don't know if you want questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Would that be mine? Yes.
Apparently I do more than look pretty up here. Does anyone have questions for our...
So go to the mic if you have a question. We don't have a lot of time, so
Kelly,
just a
can you
couple.
please go to that mic over on that side? Thank you.
Charlotte McCallum, and representing Lakeview United in Calgary. Yes, thank you for that very clear, brilliantly transparent slide deck. I'm wondering if we can access that somewhere.
Sure,
either
absolutely.
on the region website, for example, or will it something
we can email it to everyone, yeah. Or I can...
At least a link to it would be really nice to know.
Sure,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you, as the policy wonk here.
Yes, you were who I was thinking of.
That's right.
Hi, thanks for that. My name's Kelly. I'm the minister at Robert McClure United Church in Calgary, in Northeast Calgary. Thank you for that. Some of us ministers, we went to the ministers' retreat, and I got some of this information because I am easily baffled by this. But now I have another question. So Dave, yesterday, he talked about if we have an issue, and then we could bring it here as a motion, bunnies. And now I'm trying to connect, if we have an issue, and it's a motion, and then your big questions and your policies. How did these two things connect? Like if I think there's an issue in Northeast Calgary, I don't even know how to ask this question.
Okay, I think I understand what you're asking. So proposals are largely proposals are when you want to actually change a policy. So if there's a policy in place and you want to change a policy, then you would bring it forward as a proposal. The other way proposals are used is if there's something that you feel the region as a whole really needs to be talking about together. So whether it's to here or to general council, you time about. If it's something that that you just think the leadership need to be paying attention to, then you can talk directly to the executive. Like you can write a letter to the executive, or you can talk to the presider, or you can talk to me, and then those things can get to the executive. We can schedule time on the conversation, but again, just remember that the role of the executive is around the big picture ends, goals, and policies. And then the executive can determine, is this something that needs to be decided by the full court, or is it something within the authority of the executive or the staff? But if it's just an operational detail, then go to the staff, you know, because we can then clarify, and if it's outside of our container, then we'll refer it to the executive. So if you're ever in doubt, just ask.
Okay, so I thought you said you didn't do operations.
Staff do operations, executive doesn't. So if it's operational related, just talk directly to the staff.
We will take one more question.
I'm Mary Beth, and I represent Milk River, and this is a little tongue-in-cheek, but if our governance model is not Carver, and was the other guy Hotchkiss, and not Hotchkiss, does that make us non-binary?
Thanks.
Things to all people.
Thank you very much, Trina.
So in a minute, we're going to call up some of the members of the executive to talk about their experiences on it, but I just wanted to review a few things. There is a report in your agenda book that talks about sort of the main decisions that were made at each of our meetings this year, so that you know sort of what we've been talking about. But I want you to know maybe some things about being on executive in case some of you have a burning desire to serve with us. It's usually a 3-year term that you come in for, and there's a 2-term limit. So once you've been on for 6 years, you're off. You can come back again. I think, David, you went off and came back on. And we're grateful for that. But that's how that works. The presiding officer is elected every year by the executive. That's why a name is not given to you to elect a presiding officer, because the executive actually does that. We have a vice presiding officer for the first time, Taylor Croissant. Normally, Taylor will take over, and hopefully he will, but it's still every year an election that the executive has to nominate the presiding officer. We have 11 people on the executive. It's a balance of lay and clergy. We need from both groups. And our executive has chosen to elect, in addition to that, an Indigenous elder as a corresponding member, and Trudy Wesley is serving as that member at this time. When we're in the executive, what we like to do is consider the interests of the whole region, but also the interests of specific areas. So some of the things that, you know, over the time I've been doing it, certainly this last year, that we Southeast that have many communities of faith, and encourage, see how this works, we have encouraged the staff to find ways to alleviate the pressure on the clergy, but also have communities work together. And then it's their responsibility to figure out how that happens. And my understanding is they've begun conversations with several of the congregations in that area, hoping to work together to have greater clergy support, and also support each other so that those communities can be strong. We are often talking about rural versus urban issues. Because, as you know, the city of Calgary is probably the big center in this region, and, you know, in 1.5 million people in one center versus all the rural areas where our churches are as well. We understand how, you know, I'm from Calgary, and I see through that lens, although I did spend time in Oyen, which really opened me up to rural Alberta, and I love it. So balancing those interests, I want you to know that we're very insistent about talking about smaller communities of faith. That is very important to us because we believe that thriving communities of faith make a thriving region. That being said, we also know that it's harder and harder for some smaller communities of faith to maintain a presence there. And so we have conversations about where do we absolutely need to maintain a United Church presence, even though we recognize that some of the congregations are tired and they're ready to find a different way to be church. And so one of the regions, or one of the areas where the congregation will be disbanding is Olds. And we decided as an executive around the table that we really need to have a United Church presence in Olds. Like, we can't give up that space, but we recognize the congregation might not be able to continue there. So we received a proposal, as you saw in the report, about a redevelopment in Olds that's going to be spearheaded by the region to ensure that in that college town, that sort of university town, that the United Church continues to have a presence. It's really exciting. Scott Reynolds is involved in that. We were so pleased to receive that report. What we concentrate on are sort of some broad goals. Healthy communities of faith. We believe we're stronger together. Okay? The region is important. That's why we're so grateful that you all are here, because if we are all just congregations going willy-nilly, we can't carry each other, and it's important that we do that. We're stronger together. So we consider what healthy communities of faith might look like. Our initiative, or our the staff going to work in southeastern Alberta, is a recognition that there needed to be some work on healthy communities of faith there. We want healthy communities of faith between communities of faith, so healthy relationships. So clusters are an important part of this because we want to, I know we have a South Calgary cluster that we call SoCal because we're cool. And we have worked together on affirming issues, Black History Month. We have done Indigenous work together. We do a October orange shirt, red dress, orange shirt day group together. This year, the David Ferguson Fund, which funds sort of musical congregational endeavors, has given us a grant to bring Shane Ghostkeeper as a musical artist on our Orange Shirt Day. And we do that together as a cluster. So it's really important, if you're in a community of faith that feels like you're struggling, to join a cluster. And together, you have more strength. You can work together. So we want to encourage that kind of thing. And then we want healthy relationships between clergy, because we recognize if you got a really good friend as a clergy, you're going to be more likely to work with their congregation, right? That's the way it goes. So relationships building between clergy are really important, and we brought that as a goal on the executive, and the staff put together a clergy retreat in February, which was well attended by many clergy. Relationships were forged and solidified, and it was so wonderful. And Michelle told me that they booked it for next year already, same place. So we're going to have another one. But if we have healthy clergy, it will encourage healthy communities of faith. Yeah. Okay, we had a super spreader event at the clergy retreat. I think 3 people ended up in hospital. It was, I did not get sick, but many did, knocked out. It will go down in history. So we know that you're tired. And we know that sometimes you feel like you don't have any energy for something new. But we have a lot of discussion on how to celebrate what is happening in this region, all the good things. And every executive meeting that I go to, I am amazed at what is happening in this region and how God is working. Last time, we were particularly inspired by the First Third ministry that is happening in Chinook Winds region. And we had a long conversation with Pam, and she was explaining to us all the great things in camping ministry and building relationships with young people to build leadership in our region. So important. So those are the things, those deep conversations are the ones that we have at executive. And then, as Trina said, then we she's with us, encourage the staff to work on certain particular things every year so that we can build a region where truly God is present, we carry each other, and joy is celebrated. Thank you. So now I'm going to invite the other executive members on the panel to come up, and we have a few questions we're going to answer so that you can get an idea of the flavor of executive.
We know not everybody on executives is prepared or planning to answer questions today, but we're very happy to have our whole team here, or most of our team up here this morning. So quick introduction, you've already met, of course, Joanne Anquist. We have Kathy Yamashita is here today, Taylor Croissant, Luke Birthday Boy Hesa, Barry Clayton, Elaine Taylor Kerr. Elaine, we'd love to just have you with us. Is anyone else from executive still seated? No, come on up. Owen Kwan, Alan Buckingham, Dave Holmes, Dave Pollard, and not with us today, but as mentioned, our Indigenous advisor, corresponding member, we have Trudy Wesley often joining us. My name is Nancy Norse, and I serve St. David's and Northminster United in Calgary. So we thought through a few questions we'd like to share our thoughts with you today in light of our theme about flourishing and where we're at with that in our life of our churches, our region. But just before that, would any of you like to just share your thoughts on why did you choose to serve on executive? Who'd like to start? We have the mic there we can pass. Dave, why did you choose to serve on executive?
Essentially because I thought it was my turn. My time to serve. I think we share the leadership here, and I just thought it was my turn.
I was on the committee that made decisions about the beginning of Chinook Winds region, and I feel committed to see this through, and I can type.
Exceptionally.
So I'm back on the executive. I was on the initial Chinook Winds executive and served a term and then bowed out and back on the executive. And so for me, I have some skills and abilities to have conversations about polity and governance. But really what brought me back to the executive was the fact that I serve in a very isolated
with a large group of people and hear ideas and just be fed. That's the kind of connection we feel when we come together as executive as well, and not that feeling of being siloed in our own communities, whether we're in a certain neighborhood in a city or far away in the forgotten corner or wherever you might be in our region. There is such a strong value of being in a community like this, serving together. And so think about that too, as there are always other working groups and committees, teams, short-term, long-term opportunities in our region. There's a great feeling of being together in a group like this. So keep an eye out for opportunities. We're talking about flourishing this weekend. Where do you see flourishing in the region right now? Examples of flourishing.
Well, I'll mention again, the First Third Ministry really has been inspiring for us to be intentional about, I think Pam said yesterday, lots of people say, well, we don't have any kids, but there's kids who live in your neighborhoods. Always. And thinking about new ways to reach, that 33 and under group is a really important part of church work. And having staff people who are there to say, like, let me come dream with you. Let's figure out a plan is an amazing thing that the region offers. So the flourishing of that has been great. The relationships and conversations between communities of faith that are working together, that's also a sense of great hope and encouragement to me.
Aside from polity and governance experience that I bring, I'm also sometimes the resident contrarian, and I think the sign of flourishing that we see is that we're finally, and I'm going to use a boat metaphor for this question and the next one, we finally reached that tipping point. We're taking on water and we're sinking as a denomination and as a church, but we are finally realizing that we've got to start bailing. And so the executive, through being intentional about First Third Ministry, intentional conversations around where and how are we prioritizing and supporting congregations and communities of faith that are willing to embrace local mission and denominational presence, and making those areas a place of conversation priority are important. And so we're flourishing in that. I think we're finally recognizing, after maybe 7 years, the intentional work that needs to happen, and that's a good thing, because it means that we will have a chance to have our best days ahead of us, because we're doing the work now that will stave off some bad results in the future.
I'm inspired by the fact that all of you feel this is important enough to attend. And I look at a large gathering like this and I feel supported. I feel part of a larger group. That is where I see encouragement.
I honestly see flourishing everywhere. I know a lot of you, and I know what extraordinary people you are. And I think our churches are full of people like us. And that's really important. But I read a book a while ago by Brian McLaren called Should I Stay Christian? I don't know if any of you know that one. The first half of the book is a rather compelling case why we should not remain Christian. Why there is so much wrong with Christianity that it becomes unredeemable. And as I read through that book, and then the second half, which is an attempt to find a way to be Christian that is health-giving for the world, I realized that in the course of the last several decades of our kind of humbling as a church, we've been given an incredible gift. We've looked at our shadow. We have appreciated where we have gone wrong, and we are in the process of repenting. And that means that we are in some ways, in my mind, in the very, very best place a church could be in the world right now. And I think that's just incredibly important.
Thank you. I would just emphasize the passion that the executive shows to the Chinook Winds region, every congregation here. Just I remember that just they came to Stettler and have their own, our own executive meeting there, right, in Stettler. They are just trying to understand, many rural churches and how it works there, right? Just not in the mind, but also taking action. They came and then listened to us, and then just share their opinions about it, and then, yeah, it will really just, invisible, but just we may see just how enthusiastic about the ministry, even in the rural areas they are now. So, well, just I hope that this passion will continue in our Chinook region. Then we will see the flourishing of the churches here.
For flourishing in the region, I'm going to point to the work that our clusters have begun doing. We sort of felt very disconnected as we began our region, and we lost the connection that we had in presbyteries. And then we were all put in time out for 2 years in the pandemic. So clusters have now began to be sort of discovered as that's where that connection has taken place. So I'll mention about South Alberta South Alberta Cluster, which was the boundaries of the South Alberta Presbytery. We just meet once in the spring and once in the fall, and we ask one of the regional staff to just come to us, and we just say, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you think we need to hear. So like Joel Denhan was with us in Redcliffe just 2 months ago. He stepped out of the room, but I'll say he blew our hair back because it was so good. So I'm so encouraged to hear that now all other clusters around the region are starting to meet more frequently as well. And it's just such a great opportunity for us to know what's going on with our neighbors and to try to flourish with our connection as well.
You might go as far to say that without your cluster, you would not have had your new First Third Ministry position, right? That's an example.
That is very true. We've been very privileged. Lethbridge has been praised quite a bit in this last few days. That emerged out of a cluster meeting. That Pamela Evans came to us and put us into smaller groups within that cluster. How can you work with your immediate neighbors more so? And we said, well, we're making a youth position, and we'll figure out how to do it. And it was First Third Ministry that continued to work with us and helped us build that position.
That's great. So Dave, you made reference to the boat is sinking and the bailing is needed, or there's some shadows and we're bailing or we're turning, repenting from those and looking in a new direction. But what about those moments where something is preventing flourishing? Are there things that we're seeing in our role as executive that you would say is preventing flourishing right now?
I'd say we're spending too damn much time as a church below the line. I think that was a really, really good image. There are times when asking what's wrong with us is productive, and usually it's productive if we kind of know at least part of the answer. We're struggling with racism. How's that work? What's going on? But there's also a really unproductive way to ask that question, and that's that general shame thing where we say, what's wrong with us? And we have no idea what's wrong with us. Things aren't going well. And it's just, it drags us down into shame, and we shouldn't do that. Instead of asking what is wrong with us, I think we should be asking what is right with us, and appreciating that and celebrating it and building on it. So too much time below the line.
He's right.
Speaking personally, I know it's the aging of our congregations and the amount of energy and actually cognitive robustness that's required to do the kind of thinking that's needed. So aging congregations.
So I said I was going to use the boat metaphor to answer this question as well, and I think one of the things that's preventing some flourishing is that we aren't exactly 100% sure the priority for getting on the lifeboats, right? We're not 100% sure who and how the region is going to prioritize our congregations and our communities of faith? What are the values that we're going to be moving forward in looking at how we work with congregations? We're not 100% sure how we're going to actualize the resources that we have, which are somewhat limited, but we do know that the conversation is taken seriously, and we do know that the lifeboats are there, but we just don't trust how they're being prioritized, and we just don't trust how folks are going to access those things that are going to provide flourishing, and we just need to maybe stop looking towards the executive and policy and procedure, and this is that moment of faith where we have to trust and pray in the Spirit, and that God will reveal where we're supposed to be going and how these things are going to unfold. I can just feel the room going, oh, there he is again, bringing us down, but it'll be okay.
There's been a few times in my relationship with my spouse where we talked about our lives and where they're going, and we had to have this very important conversation. How do you measure success, right? Because, you know, you may have dreams about what you want to be, and you had a reality in the past, and you know it's not there, and you're not sure you can get there. How do we measure success? And I think what prevents flourishing in our region sometimes is we continue to use markers that were made for the post-baby boom church. Do we have kids in our Sunday school? Is there a youth group going? Is it well attended on Sunday? Can we afford a full-time clergy, right? All those old markers of success are not helpful for flourishing, because you are constantly, like Dave said, in this shame spiral. You know, when my mom was the Sunday school, director, we had, in the church that I serve, which is a city church, they remind me that at one time there was 1,000 kids registered in the Sunday school. There are not now. If I measured success of my congregation by the number of kids in Sunday school, we'd be a failure, right? So where are the areas that you are flourishing? Do you take care of each other? That's number one to me. Do you love and care for each other in your congregation? If someone needs you, are you there?
Yeah.
Have you got good relationships? Start there. Do you have relationships with organizations in your community? You know, like when I was in Oyen, we worked with the family, I forget, FSDS, what it is. Yes, that's it. On food banks and stuff like that, small church, but yet we had those relationships with other organizations. Really important, in many of these communities, you are the only sort of left of center, as Robin was saying yesterday, left of center voice theologically. Do you know how important that is in smaller communities, for there to be young people who know that maybe that United Church might accept me how I am? Mm-hmm. That's flourishing. We need to change our standards of measurement. Then we can celebrate. Even if we're a small community and we're tired, we know we're doing good work.
Yeah, I guess everybody knows, what prevents us from flourishing, but I guess it is discouraged, or like a feeling discouraged, or feeling like a stressed, by the situation that makes us feel more, feeling, how do I say, hopeless. But in my sense, flourishing is more like possible just when we see above the line, and in our terms, and also just I feel that each congregation has its own strengths in its own context. Well, it may differ, but let's say, for example, some congregation may have some capacity for just recreational activities such as sports thing, or more like music or painting, whatever. The thing is how to use the gift and find, use, and promote our gifts, to the community, I guess. And there's one newcomer, in Stetter, and he said that He's from very evangelical tradition, but he said that he loves the openness of the United Church of Canada. He want to continue to come to church. He said, yeah, we feel that, they are very different from us, right? But just, our openness is the, how can I say, tunnel through which, everybody can come to United Church of Canada and feel the presence of God in our worship service, in our activities. So I hope we open the door to our community with our gift. Just that's what I felt and discovered in my ministry here.
This preview of what I hope to do with all of you next year as I become the presider. I want to do some work around one of the executive's goals around effective leadership. In the last decade, we've experienced a lot of retirements with all the baby boomers have all headed into retirement, and we're feeling a lack of clergy. And so I want to start working on a intentional campaign of recruiting more clergy. That's something that's preventing us from flourishing at the moment.
Can't help but wondering, 100 years ago, what could have gotten in the way and didn't? And look what happened 100 years ago with the birth of our church. So how do we not let that get in the way of possibility for the next 100 years, right? So really being aware of maybe what our roadblocks are and not letting that get in the way of what could be next. Thankfully, that didn't happen 100 years ago. Maybe that's our last question to lead out of this time. We just have a few minutes left before maybe some announcements and break, but what's your message as executive to our gathered body and those online that you hope we might carry into the next 100 years? Or just any message you want to share today before you're done.
Well, you just think about, we think about how hard we have it today, and the whole spectrum of our history. Imagine if you're in the 1930s, and it's only been a decade since church union, and we're in the midst of the Great Depression, and churches had mortgages to pay off at that time because they just newly had built buildings. We face big challenges, but it's not uniquely so. There have been big challenges throughout the whole century of our history. And our faithfulness to God, we know that God will be with us, walking side by side with us through all of those difficulties that we face.
Amen.
Yeah. Just may the power of God, may the grace of God, may the love of God be with us and empower us to move toward the future as the power of God just what's with our ancestors in faith in the United States of Canada, and as God blessed United States of Canada in the past. Amen.
I think just honor who you are and honor where God has brought us, even if it's not to an easy place. I think who we are and where we are is really valuable and really important.
From our Methodist roots, I hope that in 100 years from now, we will still be looking at service to the community, sharing the love of God in the community, and that our vision doesn't end at the walls of our own churches.
I'll also borrow from our Methodist tradition. It's of little wonder, I think, and small coincidence that we meet close to Aldersgate Day, sometimes as conferences, where John Wesley talked about his strangely warm heart. And I would very much like to think that as God's people, for the next 100 years, we will take strangely warmed hearts. We sometimes forget in this United Church of ours that at our heart and our core, we are an evangelical church. We are called to share the good news of the gospel that is expansive and true to all people, no matter how they identify, no matter who they love, no matter where they are from. We in this church of ours have strangely warm hearts, and that is a core principle, that all means all, no one is outside, and that those principles of good news matter to the world.
Yeah, I mean, ditto to everything said here. I know that when you have been a builder which many of you in this room were, right? Builders of churches, particularly after the war and during the 60s. When you were a builder, you have a lot on your shoulders. You want that legacy to last. And sometimes I think we tend to think we built the church. And I hope in the next 100 years we really begin to understand this is the Church of Jesus Christ. It's not the United Church of Canada or, McDougall United Church in Calgary. We didn't build it as a congregation. God builds the church. Jesus is the head of our church. We are the Church of Jesus Christ, and that we will live into that. And when you feel like you're tired in your neighborhood, I hope we remember there is always a remnant. God does not forsake God's people. And even when you feel like, is it just me? There are others. There are thousands of others. The Church of Jesus Christ will not fail.
You can hang on to that. You can hang on to that. I'm going to ask if there's any questions because we have 9 minutes. Any questions to executive? Sue.
Sue Broderick, Parkdale United Church. First a statement and then a quick question. I have attended all 7 of the regional events since we became a region, and a positive that really struck me this time is the number of younger clergy that are in our presence, the number of younger people. Not everybody at every table is gray-haired, and this has to be the first region that I feel I can say that. And it came to my mind when Taylor said he was going to be working on leadership and getting people involved in being clergy. When you hear of a couple of the youth that shared, the work they're doing, 2 of the people on the panel with last night that are pursuing ministry, the ones that are being ordered and commissioned, they're not gray hairs, and that's such a powerful feeling. The other item I have, which is my governance head, and it worked, and it seems to have slipped away, and I'm going to ask again. Probably 3 years ago, I think it was in Medicine Hat, or even before that, I loved the report from the executive, but some of us would like to see the minutes, and I know we can access them, and I have that access, but they're not getting posted very timely, and I did try to, and none of the last years had been posted, and I did bring it up, and I'm just reminding that for some of us that's important.
Noted. Thanks, Sue, that's noted. Any other questions, observations? Well, on behalf of executive, thank you again to all of you for your continuing service to the church and is there one? Oh, there's one coming up.
Sorry.
I'll just still say thank you though for all you're doing for our church. Our churches, your communities of faith, your presence here and at home and all you do.
Good morning, Sherry Hansen with Gates Memorial United Church in Red Deer, as well as Kasota East Camp. Thank you so much for that update and the energy and enthusiasm and spirit and encouragement. It's been a powerful message this morning. I have one request. On behalf of Kasota East Camp, we do have some postcards. And I know when we walk by them, we might not be from the area, or we might think there's a poster in the church already. My hope is that the few postcards that I've brought are not left behind. And I would encourage everybody, if you've got a recreation center, a community hall, somewhere that families gather in your community, where you could take 2 postcards, put one with the picture and one with the information on the back, post it up on a bulletin board with permission, people will take pictures of that. And it will help offer invitation. And I would encourage you to do that with every one of our camps. If there's promotional material available, follow our social medias, share those social medias into community groups you might be a part of, out into your connections in community. It really is that invitation to the younger children and the families to know there's meaningful summer camp opportunities for their children. We try to keep them affordable, and we try to have incredible impact with families. So thank you, if you can do that. And I do want to ask the executive and up to the larger church, engagement is so important. We heard it from our campus ministries as well. Is there a way to measure and kind of gauge? We do it with M&S because we all put a pledge and then we gauge our engagement with that. What is our engagement as congregations with the other areas of growth within Christian development, First Third Ministry, campus, for every one of our congregations to be engaged somehow with those things? So just a question.
I do know that we come to executive, and quite often Karen, who's the pastoral relations minister, will give us an update on this. We had one session where she went through every church in our region and said, these are the issues. And it is somewhat up to you to reach out to the executive and to, if you have an issue or you'd like some help, make a phone call, send an email, do that. They are so helpful, the staff at the region. Honestly, they are so helpful wanting to help you. So reach out. That's the best way to start those conversations.
I'm Debbie Stockdale, retired minister at St. David's Northminster, and those two statements don't go quite together, but anyway. And I want to offer thank you to the regional volunteers, all of you executive committee, and everybody that works on staff for the region. And I was just reflecting, listening this morning, what great work you're doing, so thank you.
Also, just on that last question about engagement, the executive, one of the things that we're going to be doing is that we've covenanted to, when we can, go to clusters that are not our own. And so we can sit in on a cluster that's not our home. So a group of lay people and ministers who are meeting, we might be able to offer a bit of perspective from away, but also listen to what those issues that maybe that we're not dealing with, but we know what's happening in Calgary and they know what's happening in Medicine Hat, and we kind of covenant to attend and listen to what's happening at those cluster meetings. So it's another way we engage.
That seems like an excellent place to wind up. Thank you, David. And so to echo Debbie, thank you so much for the work that you're doing on behalf of the region. Thank you for the energy and excitement and the encouragement that as we go together as the church, everything will live where the river flows. So you are reflecting that back to us, so thank you. And I think thus ends the executive report, and I hand back the chair to Joanne.
Right, I think it's break time. I just want to remind about the videos. So if any youth approach you at any time, please do here by United Church. And all of that First Third Ministry stuff, Chris and Lisa and Jess and all the other people who work in First Third Ministry are such a gift to our region, and I really appreciate all the work that's going in. You might know that you ordered a hoodie. Are there any left, or has everyone picked theirs up? No, I've got a few that have not been picked up. There are some hoodies that haven't been picked up. So if you ordered one, please do pick it up. And other than that, it's break time, and we will be coming back at 10:55, 15 minutes. Yes? Pick up the envelopes at the First Third envelopes. Oh, yes. You can, one for each congregation. Oh, there's a First Third envelope for each congregation. Pick yours up.
harder to breathe, 'cause I need you here with me every day. You're saying the words that I want you to say. There's a pain in my heart and it won't go away. Now I know I'm falling, 'cause I need. You're saying the words that I want you to say. There's a pain in my heart and it won't go away. Now I know I'm falling in deep, 'cause I need you here with me. I think I see your face in every place that I go. I try to hide it, but I know that it's gonna show. Every single night I find it harder to sleep, 'cause I need you here with me every day. You're saying the words that I want you to say. There's a pain in my heart and it won't go away. And now I know I'm falling in deep, and I need you here with me every day. You're saying the words that I want you to say. There's the pain in my heart and it won't go away. And now I know I'm falling in deep, and I need you here with me. Can I tell you something just between you and me? When I hear your voice, I know I'm finally free. Every single word is perfect as it can be, and I need you here with me. Innocence meant for corruption. Pardon my disruption. I've been thinking about you. I've been dreaming about you. Thinking about the things you do when no one can see you move. Thinking about the things I do to you if I was in your room. But mom and daddy don't like that, oh no. My mama ain't surprised, wondering what we might find if you let me get inside. But shawty looking at me with the bedroom eye. I'm looking at her, but I'm tongue-tied. Speeding real fast down I-95. Lines is blurred as they pass by. Nicks and dimes leave bumps and bruises. Just don't say I made you do it. I'm the one that I'm confused with. Prices being for young and stupid. Love and lost me, I'll go through it. Life's a bitch and mine's so ruthless. Look you in your eyes, I knew it. Gave me one more chance, I blew it. So young, so dumb, so lost. I just wanna find you. They don't love you like I do, but your eyes, they talk too. And I walk the walk, I fumbled twice. Gave me one a couple times. Told you I'd do right this time. Lines just blur your hands in mine. On the block, it's in the code. Been with you for years and more. Things that we ain't seen before. Nothing much. Shawty looking at me with the bad, but I'm tongue-tied. Speeding real fast down I-95. Lines is blurred as they pass by. Nicks and dimes leave bumps and bruises. Just don't say I made you do it. I'm the one that I'm confused with. Prices being for young and stupid. Love and lost me, I'll go through it. Life's a bitch and mine's so ruthless. Look you in your eyes, I knew No songs, just thoughts. She smoking like L, what? Smoking like. She smoking like L. I'm on the road like Caraway. You can't get your camera back. They roll with some cut-throat hoes, they probably fuck my cameraman. Vodka in my Camelback. Festival, I'm on stage. You could catch it in the field, running plays like all stay. Fuck the drama, what your nana like? Yeah, every girl I kinda like. Yeah. She's just the right size. Wonder if we might buy. Like Khalees, for real. Sorry, girl, got a piece for now. Spit on that girl that you eatin' now. She said your number under meals and nails. Oh, that shit'll get you every time. Oh, that shit'll get you every time. Throwing cash all in the air. We don't gotta be nowhere. Watching y'all up in the club. Y'all be losing everywhere. Oh, that shit'll get you every time. Oh, that shit'll get you every time. That shit'll get you every time.
Guess that's what I get for leaning into the best friend. Now I've got one more accent, two less hands here for holding. Ignored all of my reasons for running far from my feelings. Now I'm down on my knees and watching you as you're leaving. I hear you say goodbye, and I say I'm fine. But really if I'm honest with myself, I'm a mess. Total equal tension. Turns out I'm still the same kid, falling hard for affection. And it hurts so bad when it's over, when we both wake up and we're sober. But got that first little moment, feeling you leaning closer. Hear you say goodbye, I say I'm fine, but really if I'm honest with myself, I'm a mess, total fake, thinking I might need some help, 'cause I never change, always getting in my own way. Oh, look at this mess I've made, look at this mess I've made. Oh, I'll take the blame for making you hate my name. Oh, look at this mess I've made, look at this mess I've made. Oh, oh, look at this mess I've made, look at this mess I've made. Oh.
Why do you hate me? We don't want the same thing. How could you blame me when I ain't the same me? I want you to love me back, babe. But that don't mean I love you back, babe. 'Cause the boys from the gutter dream of girls from the valley, and the grass is always greener when you're living in an alley. Yeah, we smoke, that's just how we cope. Zannies with the coke, just so I can float. I just bought me a chain and it feels just like a shackle. Got a heart full of hurt and some demons I can't tackle. Got my feet on the earth, put my head up in the gravel. My mileage running out, I don't know how long I traveled. I can't go home, I can't go, I can't go.
Every day is a day of thanksgiving. God has been so good to me. Every day you're blessing me. Every day is a day of thanksgiving. Take the time to glorify the Lord today. Keep blessing me. You keep blessing me. Open the doors so I can see you're blessing me. You keep blessing me. You keep blessing me. Take the time to glorify the Lord today. Every day is a day of thanksgiving. God has been so good to me. Every day you're blessing me. Every day is a day of thanksgiving. Take the time to glorify the Lord today. You blessing me. You open the door so I can see you're blessing me. You keep blessing me. You keep blessing me. Take the time to glorify the Lord today. Every day is a day of thanksgiving. God has been so good to me. Every day you're blessing me. Every day is a day of thanksgiving. Take the time to glorify the Lord today. You keep blessing me. You keep blessing me. You open the door so I can see you're blessing me. You keep blessing me. You keep blessing me. Take the time to glorify the Lord. Glorify the Lord. Glorify the Lord today.
Mark, why don't you swing low? Well, I would say, you'll come back and you swing low. Because people are still.
I don't know if the president even knows what she's doing. Okay.
Yeah, see?
Alan, can you put it swing low? Okay. Barbara, we're going to do swing low. They want another one. We'll do swing low. Swing low.
Swing low.
So as we come back to our tables, we're going to do one that has a few actions for it. We're going to invite you to do the actions with me.
I'll just do it as sort of
Swing low, sweet area, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet area, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. There we go. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet coming for to carry me home. If coming for to carry me home. Swing low, swing coming for to carry me home. Last time, swing low, swing coming for to carry me home. Swing low, swing coming for to carry me home.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to tell you one thing now. Those jugs on your table, if one person from each table at the end of the session for lunch can take the jug, make sure it gets filled and put it on a table over there, that would be great. So we can have water at our tables there. We have so much going on in our region, and we are an affirming region. Pam Rocker is with Affirming Connections, and she's been so instrumental in getting the message out about being affirming in our region. And she is here to share with us work that's going on. Well, I don't know what she's sharing, to be honest. I'm not going to make it up, but it's going to be good.
Thanks, Joanne. So I have a question. I have a quiz. I have a 2-question quiz. And I have a prize. If any of you watch Queer Eye, anybody in here watch Queer Eye? Yeah, you do. Okay, my new best friends. You can get your very own Karamo Brown Funko Pop. I'm gonna set it there. If you don't know who Karamo is, you better get on Netflix immediately. So I have a question for you. In Chinook Winds region, okay, you can talk about this at your table, no Googling it, okay, no looking at websites or anything. How many affirming ministries are in the Chinook Winds region? So I'll just give you like a couple seconds, talk amongst yourselves. How many do you think there are? Thanks, Alan. Okay, do we have any reps from your tables who just want to say what you've guessed? 35? 22? 28? 29? We have a 35. Can we have a 40? 40, okay. Okay, so we have 20, okay, out of approximately 85 ministries. Now, second question is, how many affirming ministries are in the entire United Church of Canada? Okay, all ministries, all camps, all of that. Talk amongst yourselves. Just for a second. Okay, we have any numbers? 2,000? We've got 97, that's a big difference. 127, 903, 400, 600, 500? Okay. Okay, so we have approximately 370. The percentage that is of all United Church ministries is 12. So a lot of times when I talk to folks about, working with the United Church of Canada, if they know about it, there's often a very positive or at least neutral, like, oh, I think that might be the church that, has, a social justice sort of persona or reputation, right? And then they might ask me, oh, like, are there any, affirming ministries or like United Churches in my area? And obviously a lot of times I'm talking to queer folks from the queer community, or organizations that are to us LGBTQIA serving, or loved ones of queer folks who, want to be in community. And the really good news is that, about a third of the time I can say, oh my gosh, there's an affirming ministry 15 minutes from you. And that happens a lot, right? But the other 2/3 of the time, there's not one of the 370 churches, because it's the other 88%, right? And I have no idea if I can say to the person I'm talking to, the family I'm talking to, what their experience is gonna be like. So I say that all to say, like, we had guesses here from like 900 to 40, And so just to give you some context of kind of where we are as a country and then where we are as a region, it's really inspiring for me that we have about, almost 25% of Chinook Winds region, especially being in a region that is traditionally, conservative. There's a lot of people that are extreme right of center, so that's a really good thing. The challenge that I have, and the invitation that I have for you to think about, is if I was in your community, or if somebody was in your community asking me, is there a safe place for me to go in this community, for me to go, my kids to go, or I just want to go somewhere where I know everybody's accepted because that fits my values. I want to be able to tell them that anywhere they go where there's United Church, yes, they will be. So that's an invitation to you. If you haven't, gone on the affirming journey, or maybe you've been affirming for a long time, but you're kind of looking around and being like, I don't know if we would have anything to put in our affirming annual report for a while. We did a potluck in 2016, Some of you are laughing, you're like, that's too real, Pam, So this isn't at all to guilt you. There's a lot of amazing things happening. But just to say that stamp of affirming says so much. Because it's not just one person saying everybody's welcome, it is your community has said, this is what we commit to be. And we can't just sort of rest and sit back and rest on our progressive social justice reputation, because it really matters what somebody experiences when they're in the midst of your community. I'm stealing this quote that my friend John said yesterday. The role of the church is to help people reconnect to their true self, by Richard Rohr. I can quote him too, John, okay? And I think about this actually a lot in a lot of different contexts, because if that's the role of the church, then being an affirming ministry is inherently the role of the church. Because if people can't come and find their true selves in our midst, what does that say about the kind of ministry that we have? We want people to be able to come as they are. And I always say church is not about telling us what to be, but reminding us of who we are. And that's what I love about our tradition. I'm going to share just a couple of highlights of things that we do. A lot of folks, we do lots of, we kind of have Frankenstein this beautiful thing together, over the past 70 years since Affirming Connection started. And I want to give you just a little bit of a taste of it. But I also want to invite you to come and chat with us at the table. Because we're here to answer your little questions. You might have to whisper them to me. You may not really know how to say it or how to ask, and that's totally fine. I want you to feel like this is a good time, a safe time for you to come and have a conversation and get some support. One thing that we do every year is a citywide Pride interfaith service. We have usually over 25 different faith communities involved, around 8 or 9 different religions represented. You can see last year we had our interfaith service at the local Unitarian. gathering, and it was the biggest one we ever had. People were standing up in the back. I can't remember last time I was at a religious service where there was standing room only, right? So it was this really beautiful celebration of no matter what faith you're a part of, you deserve to be able to belong. Even if you don't have, an official place to go to in this community, there are people who do practice that faith that you can come and be with. And we're really excited to do that again this year. We love being involved in Calgary Pride. You can see some of y'all's beautiful faces here. So many folks in this area, and I know so many prides that happen across Southern Alberta, and I'm even more proud of you folks who are in smaller towns who get involved. I've talked to you a lot this weekend. It is so, so crucial and important. And so that's a big piece of what we do. And we usually talk to, Miranda and I try to count, and we have our support team there to also talk to people, like over 1,000 people in like 8 hours. And every single person, honestly, tentatively comes up, and we just have to have tons of free buttons, right? Because that's how you get people. And we'll come up and they'll be like, wait a minute, like, who are you, And I look like I do. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I think, oh, they should think they're safe. But they know, they're like, okay, I see a book that has something to do with religion, right? But as soon as they get to know who we are, they cannot believe it. They can't. And then when we have a list of here's all the affirming ministries in Southern Alberta, they can't believe that. And that shows a couple of things. Number one, it's still a revolutionary act. I wish it wasn't. And number two, those of you who do have, good active affirming things going, or you want to, there's a need and there's a thirst for that out there. So practicing that P as part of PI, public, intentional, explicit, really matters, and people will notice. We had an affirming media conference this year, and it was really helping folks. I will just say plainly, the right extremists know how to organize. They know how to organize, they know how to market, and they have a lot of money to do it. So they're very effective. And their disinformation campaigns across Alberta are literally like wildfire. We've seen that happen in the States, we've seen that happen across Canada, not only during the election, but for a long time. And our work is very impacted by this disinformation because a lot of it is targeted against queer and trans folks. And so what we wanted to do is equip faith communities and social justice organizations to have the same skills, to be able to say we can get the good news out there, that that's not the only narrative, that those things are myths that you're hearing, and be able to have the same really high quality tools to be able to share that. So that was a really amazing experience. And the night before, we had local musicians do a concert, which was amazing, and had tons of just people from the broader community come out. Which was a great chance for us to, be a part of the community and not just drop in for a second. Okay, how many of you celebrate Pi Day? I just want to see hands. Oh my gosh, I love you. This is amazing. Like, honestly, this is amazing. We just made Pi Day up in 2018. We were like, there's no National Affirming Day. That's a crime. We're going to do it. And now people will come up to me, have you heard of Pi Day? Yes, I have. But how folks have taken it and run with it, I don't care. One day, I won't be, no one will know me, but they'll know what Pi Day is because of you. And so this year we had a Pi Day song contest. We got song submissions from across North America of people saying, I'm going to write a song specifically to celebrate being public, intentional, explicit of our inclusion of 2S LGBTQIA plus people. And you'll see our first place for original song, Angela Palo, is there. We had a slate of amazing judges. If you can see Flamey Grant, oh my gosh, nationally touring, singing, songwriting, drag queen, used to be a worship leader in Baptist churches, now is leading worship as a drag queen, love it. Pick Two United won in their choir won for best submission. You can still access all of the winning songs, the charts, the audio files, and the videos on our website. So Pi Day is year round. Actually, in Calgary tomorrow morning, Varsity Acres Presbyterian Church is having their Pi Day celebration because they're like, we couldn't do it in March, but we're going to do it now. And I love that. So that's available for you. And this is just, this is such a small, but huge example of the different things that y'all have done to celebrate Pi. I love that McKillop United did Pi sit-ins at their local, legislative branches to say, actually, we want to tell you how much trans kids mean to us and what we believe to be true about what they deserve. It was amazing. And all this beautiful Pi stuff that happened across the country. We had such a fun folk heroes event. And I will say, yes, the person in blue is my wife, okay? She's also a folk singer and a Black historian, as well as Cheryl Fogo, who is a renowned Calgary playwright, screenwriter, author, historian. And we had a great conversation about how do you tell stories about history when so many people's stories have been left out? And how do we find those stories? How do we celebrate those stories? How do we honor them? And how do we do that, honoring the traditional methods in which they've been told over time? We also did this great event in December with a journalist from Extra Magazine. There's so much disinformation about trans youth and transitioning and healthcare and gender-affirming care for trans youth. And this is the question that we've gotten the most since last year. Huge. And so we brought in Zia Jones, who works a lot on healthcare, covers healthcare, and said, okay, what is actually the truth of, we hear all these talking points, even on the news. And actually, in a different conversation I had with Zia, they showed me like 5 different places where CBC in different places of the country aired stories with this information as truth, right? And it depends on the region they're in sometimes, right? So it was like, let's just get on the same page so that way we're talking about actual facts. And so we're not using things that we're hearing that are really gonna damage people's lives against them. We also did this really fun My Alberta and My Canada campaign way before anybody said they wanted to make Canada their 51st state. Just saying, we had a feeling, and so we went for it. And we wanted to really show that our Alberta and our Canada, we know that there are so many more people out there who are affirming in their theology, are affirming in how they live their lives. And we got so much traction from that, from people just sharing this on their social media pages. We have a huge social media presence, and we really just wanted to get this message out there that it's not about just, nationalism, but it's saying like, one thing I really love is that we're able to be in a place and we have the freedom to say, this is what we believe to be true, and so let's practice that. We were also able to spend some time at the Rural Ministry Conference and do a workshop there. And we have a support team that helps us with all of this stuff, and you'll learn more in a second just exactly why we really need that. We try to do interviews with media whenever we can, just to continue to bring awareness that the queer identity and faith identity are not separate, that we bring those things together, because they're always separated in so many different conversations. And so we try to break any of those mythologies that the things don't belong together. We've had a lot of social media growth in the past 12 months. We've put a lot of concerted effort towards that, especially to reach younger folks and just a lot of people who, like I said, if I wish it was different from when I started doing this work 8 years ago, and even before that, before Affirming Connections, still people do not know that there are places they can come and be and have actual sanctuary. And that is like my life's passion, to make sure that they know that there are. And so we have had a lot of, really positive reaction from that. I wanted to share really quick, I shared last year that the government of Alberta announced plans to change 3 policies that were really going to affect the queer and trans community in Alberta, particularly youth. That was banning trans-affirming healthcare, measures that effectively eliminate sex education for all ages, no matter what, requiring parental consent for all students under 15 who want to change their name or pronouns at school, and for 16 and 17-year-olds being required to notify their parents, which is often a very highly dangerous thing to happen. So that means that student may not have a safe place at school as well as at home. And then preventing transgender girls and women from participating in sports for girls and women, even in elementary school. So these bills were passed in December of 2024. And what this means is that trans and gender diverse youth are even more vulnerable to experiencing discrimination. Disinformation has been given credence. We've seen that just the campaigns have really worked that they've been doing. And there's an overall chilling effect province-wide in our educational and healthcare systems. And there's a lot of pre-compliance that people are doing, taking any mention of being 2S LGBTQ out of their curriculum already. Like, it's already happened in a lot of places. And a lot of doctors refusing to treat trans folks because they're worried that they're gonna get sued or something's gonna happen to them. So a lot of times when we hear about this, we're like, wait, is this happening in Tennessee? It's like, no, it's happening here right now. And those three things got passed. And so it's even more important than ever that we who protect the vulnerable really pay attention to what's happening. And if you want to talk to us a little bit more about something that you can do to help protect folks in your community and make a difference, please, let's do that. In the past year, our requests for support have increased by 300%. I'm taking a breath, and also I want you to think about that for a second. It started really in February of 2024 when the legislation was introduced and has only increased since then. So this increasing anti-queer legislation, the disinformation campaigns, and then also a lot of internal dissonance in some faith communities due to conflicting political beliefs, some roadblocks, that are being put in the way of different faith communities affirming journeys, and people being afraid of what might happen in their faith community if they do make a public stance of support. So this doesn't mean we're not here to support you, but if you haven't gotten an email back from me within 24 hours, give us some time, because we're really trying to meet the demand that there is. And there's no other way to say it other than it's super, super urgent for a lot of people. And we're so thankful, especially for the times that we have connections in other places in Alberta where we can connect those folks with you and your community to have even more immediate one-on-one support or community support from them. Lastly, there's this great quote from the Mama Bears documentary that we watched last night. And it says, "We're not going to see changes in our legislative halls until we change what we hear in the pews from the pulpits of our churches." And that's so true. And so, whether you think that what you're doing, you're like, do people care? Does this make a difference at all? It absolutely does. And I know some of you here, some of you online, I've had conversations with, and you're like, listen, my faith community just isn't there yet. We're not at that place to have this conversation or to do anything publicly. I really appreciate every single person who says, no matter what my faith community is doing, I'm gonna be a mama bear. I'm gonna be a papa bear. I'm gonna be somebody who people can come to. And I've heard from some of you who are like, hey, I'm in my ladies' book group and I'm telling them, the real information about XYZ, right? So I want you to know that we're here to support you, even if it isn't an official affirming journey that your faith community is going through, that we're here to support the work happening and to support you as a person, because that is actually how change happens. And lastly, we're in this amazing nonviolent series right now that we're co-hosting with McKillop United. We're hosting Breakfast of Affirming Champions throughout Southern Alberta. So talk to us more about that if you want to host one in your area. And please, please, if you only remember one thing from here, please sign up for our community safety and care training. a lot of folks say, I do want to go out to Pride, or I want to go out to protest. I want to be out there, but I'm not sure what to do if there are counter protesters or if something happens, right? That's totally fair. So this is going to equip you to know what to do, to know de-escalation techniques, to know how to have a calm, peaceful presence, to know how to do it with kindness. And it's being led by the head of security for Buddies in Bad Times Theater in Toronto, which is the biggest and oldest queer theater company in the world. So they've had a lot of experience with people protesting them. So it's gonna be an amazing time. So get your affirming team, your staff, whoever you can to come to this. It's online, it's free. We're really excited about offering this opportunity to make you feel more confident in whatever situation you're in, to make people feel as safe as possible. And lastly, I just want to say, this is truly, I know that it's a lot of meetings and all of that, but like this is one of my favorite times of year to connect with y'all and to hear stories about what you're doing in your community. Nothing makes me happier than hearing from somebody who's over 65 years old about the good trouble you're causing. And you give me so much hope, and you like smash any stereotype there is that like, oh, older congregations or these people aren't supportive. Like you are the ones who are moving things forward, as well as those who are under 25, right? So I feel personally encouraged, even in the midst of the firestorm and the, all of the grossness that we see and the hate and the dissonance, that there's a possibility of really good news, and that more and more we can see Alberta as a place that is known for, hey, can I go to this church? Hey, am I safe here? And we can say yes. So thank you so much, Chinook Winds Region, all of the staff and all of you who are doing all that you can in all different ways. Please come and chat with us and get free buttons. And I think I know who the Karamo is going to. It's Maurizio right there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. We're having back-to-back the two people with the best hair in the place. So on our agenda now we have Toward 2035, and I'm sure that you're going, what is that? And so I'm here to tell you. So I'm really pleased that we have some time to talk about 2035 today. What it is it's a national initiative, and it's based in data and discipleship, and it's aimed at helping us imagine the future of the United Church of Canada with clarity, courage, and faith. So Cameron is one of the leads of this project, along with Jennifer Henry, who was here with us last year, and I get to serve on the task group with them. And I know firsthand how deeply Cameron brings both thoughtfulness and conviction to these conversations. Here in Chinook Winds, we've spent quite a bit of time thinking about the future of the church and have been engaged in that work, most notably our 2023 regional gathering in Medicine Hat. We spent Trimble. And since then, the executive has been asking the question, we offer leadership for the future in a proactive way. I often say to my kids, when you have decisions to make and you don't make them, things just happen to you. And if you want to have control over your life, you actually have to take some agency and make some decisions. I have kids that tend to put those things off. So as a region, how do we make bold decisions about ministry, not just reactive ones that are driven by leaky roofs or dwindling budgets? Joanne referenced some of the work that we are beginning to do in southeastern Alberta, but there's many places throughout the region that are beginning to think about their future and have a desire to think creatively. I often say to congregations, we in the 60s had a plan to plant a church in every high school catchment area, or along the railway, I understand, in the more rural areas. So the question before us now is, what do we need today? What does the United Church need by way of churches for the future? What kind of church do we want to be in 2035? So toward 2035, this project is going to help us in that discernment. It offers us a wide-angle view of where the church is across the country and practical tools to help guide our own strategic planning here in Chinook Winds. It's not just about structures, it's about being faithful, adaptive, and spirit-led in this changing world. It's about writing the future of the United Church and ensuring that we're around for a long time to come. So with that, I'll turn things over to Cameron to share more about this important work.
It's really great to be offered the opportunity to speak with y'all about this today. It's been such a joy to be able to be here for your regional gathering. I've got to be with the moderator at many of the flourishing projects that have usually been a day-long workshop, and so getting to see this in the midst of your gathering has been wonderful. Every Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, staff team from the Growth Department at the General Council Office and others gather online to pray together, to pray for communities of faith of the United Church of Canada. And Scott, as the growth animator for this area, keeps us informed about pockets of things that are happening. And so it's wonderful to have heard some of the stories that we have prayed for, hear about how that is going. And as I was driving from Calgary up here from the airport, it was wonderful to pass signs of towns that I have been hearing about, thinking about, and praying about for a while. I'm hoping that we can ground our conversation in a bit of a shared reflection. We sing of a church seeking to continue the story of Jesus by embodying Christ's presence in the world. We sing of a church seeking to continue the story of Jesus. I want to invite you to do something, if you're open to it, to take a moment just on your own, whether you have your eyes closed or open, or one open, one closed, to think about, is there something of the story of Jesus that has so captured your heart? Something about loving how he loves, living what he taught, and about the life of faithful service to God to which he invites us. Is there something that you can name in there that holds particular significance for you? And as you think about the place where you call home, your neighborhood, your community, your town, or your city embodied in your time and place, I wonder what comes to you. You to turn to one person at your table. If there's an odd number, 2, but don't do more than that, because we're going to do this really short. And to take only 2 minutes for each of you to say a little bit about what rises to your mind. When we sing of a church seeking to continue the story of Jesus, loving what he loved, living what he taught, striving to be faithful service of God in our time and place, what is that thing of the story of Jesus you most long to see embodied in the place you call home? Take 2 minutes for both of you or all 3 of you to share that.
We're on.
We're going to bring you back together in just a few seconds. And with that one person, or with those two people, you have said a few We're going to go all around. Have referred to it as a conversation. In November 2024, a conversation began with regional and denominational staff future of the United Church of Canada. And that conversation in November pointed to an urgent need rooted in both data and a call to discipleship to come together across the church in a denomination-wide vision and strategy towards the future, to ask how the United Church of Canada should respond to the moment that we find ourselves. And a conversation that needs to acknowledge a lot of grief, a lot of exhaustion in our collective and our individual expressions. A lot of challenge with change, a lot of hope for change, a lot of possibilities. And that it needs to be able to inspire action. To use a phrase from a few days ago, we might call it productive hope. We need something that gives us productive hope. And at the core of this conversation is a conviction that is deeply held in confidence and humility that the United Church of Canada continues to be called to faithful witness to a God of abundant love, to the Christ who is risen among us in the lively Spirit who works in us and others. We are convinced that we are invited to embody this witness first and foremost in the lives of faithful disciples gathered in communities across Canada, whether in small rural localities, in towns and suburbs, or in the breadth of Canada's cities. And this is held along an acknowledgement that there are significantly fewer people worshiping in, volunteering in, giving to, and participating in United Church ministries at every level: congregations, camps, campuses, councils, community ministries. And at many board meetings, many online spaces, many places where we talk about the life of the church, there's anxiety and there's exhaustion. And there is fear or uncertainty about what the future will bring. And then when we look at data that we collect through communities of faith submitting annual statistics forms, when we bring it together to paint a national picture, it is indeed sobering. And in a bit, I'm going to show some visualization of the data. And I anticipate that for many, it won't be a surprise. And so when those leaders met in the fall of 2024, leaders who hold jobs, roles of service to the church as a whole, when they asked whether there was something that they could articulate, the beginning of something about the future of the United Church of Canada that we could work towards together, that could be held up to guide their work as leaders, but also to be offered to the entire church for consideration about where we may find our place. In Isaiah 43, the voice of Yahweh says to God's people, I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. I love that word, perceive. To put my flourishing hat on for a moment, although this hair can't be contained by a hat, can it? One of the resources in the back of your flourishing workshop is the Bloom podcast by Marie McDonald, who designed that workshop with the moderator. In one of her episodes, she says, we need to give our brains something to look for in the world. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? Is this not what so much of our scriptures do, to train our minds and our hearts to look for particular things in the world that we might see the holy at work? And so we need something to look for about the future that we want, the future that we believe God is calling us to, the future that we would be bold enough to name as that which God may be doing. Because otherwise, we look at the rocks, we look at the stump, we look at the tree branch over the mountain biking path. I mean, you look at the rock and look at the rock and look at the rock, you're going to hit the rock. So what would it mean to speak of the United Church in the future in ways like this? If the United Church of Canada was made of inspired, resilient communities of disciples who live their ministry in diverse ways in relationship with faith, the United Church is present all generations, notably first, third. Can words like this begin to be something that we can look for in the world? Look for signs that we might perceive where this is possible. I'm going to have to leave at the end of the final closing worship today, and so I'm not going to be able to get to join you. But when I walk out the door and drive to the airport to fly back Regina, I am leaving full of signs. In my role in the church, I'm always looking for signs of possibility, signs of the future that could be for the United Church. And I am leaving so grateful for the number of signs that I am leaving of what God is doing among you. And also the challenging story of our present and where we have seen over the past years must be acknowledged. For the next few minutes, I'm going to introduce but know that in the coming months, material is going to be made available, including what I am showing, so that the church in all of its forms can more closely engage it. So for today, I'm going to only name a few numbers, even though there's going to be numbers on the screen. I might not draw our attention to it. But I am going to show some charts, and the main thing I'm going to We also see that when we look at what the census calls visible minorities, that in 2021, we're reflecting almost 26% of Canadian population. Not going to make any specific about the groups, but we're going to say that many populations are bringing gifts of their own faith. That gray line in the previous one. But many also come from Methodist or Protestant traditions. Some of them are looking to practice that in their own ethno-linguistic community. And others may be seeking a Canadian expression akin to their Christian community of origin. And there are those who come here as part of a tradition that does not make sense, or perhaps the emerging understanding of gender and sexuality that folks, as they come from another place here, may already be bringing with them while they find here, particularly second and third generations. They may see a faith community in which that can be explored. I'm going to now look at some data that tells the story of the church during these 20 years, 30 years. What I'm going to show you was created by taking data submitted by communities of faith from 1992 through 2023. These are your statistics forms that you submit. And data analysts who work for the General Counsel Office plotted quantities along each year between those time periods. And doing that, we can then project forward towards 2035. When you project forward, a projection is a projection. It's an item for conversation. It is not dividing, it is not predicting, but it is talking about if what comes ahead is similar than what came before, this is what we might think we might do. This is all done in the belief that God has a seat at the table along with the Spirit who is at the head of the table. And that can, alongside theological and biblical reflection and conversation, offer us support, offer us something to work with as we seek to discern God's will. And when we get engaged, it's a lot like the mountain biking example, to help us understand what is on our path. If these numbers, as was mentioned in the executive report, if these numbers were lifted up as a chance to understand our worth as a community, it would not tell us a story. But if I believe they can help us make sense of our reality and perhaps understand a little better the context in which we are serving. So first, I'm going to show you, that was an explanation of that. This is total membership. The gold on the far left of the screen represents 1992. At the time, the United Church of Canada was made up of approximately 760,000 members. The blue in the center, 2023, 320,000 members. And using those and projecting forward, one could ponder 10 years from now, 2035, perhaps 111,000 members. Now, remembering again that materials are going to be created and offered for more close looking. At this moment, I want us to pay most attention to the direction and the degree, because this direction and degree is mirrored in the following slides. I'm just going to move quickly from one to the next, not pointing out, because I want us to see some commonalities and then a dramatic difference at the end. When we look at total identifiable givers, again, we see a very similar, starting from a different point and ending at a different point, but a very similar direction and very similar degree. When we look at average Sunday worship attendance, we see the same thing. This direction, again, is mirrored in Sunday school attendance, but with a more dramatic degree. And this is a good reminder that data tells us part of the story. Even this weekend, you have heard how among you, camps, campuses, pickleball, and the work of your amazing first, third team and the love expressed by people within your congregations are creating rich spaces for connection with young people. This is a reminder that the data tells us what to pay attention with and what to bring into conversation. But if we took this slide out of context, the entirety of the United Church might think, well, there are no young people among us. We should not even bother with First Third Ministry. But even like the stories that we've heard from particular communities of faith, from your First Third team, from Sunnybrook United Church, places that may well have been justified in saying, well, we have no young people, when they sought to make the right spaces available, there was a beautiful response. And so these numbers can't be a marker of whether we are doing what we are meant to be doing, but they can guide us in helping us to be thinking about how, if not through this, we might be called to and able to engage children, youth, their families, and young adults. I'm going to go back to average Sunday worship attendance for a moment, because what I want to draw our attention to is that in all those individual participation markers, we have seen a rather similar direction and degree of shifting. But when we look at pastoral charges, the number of pastoral charges, we see a similar trajectory, but a far different degree. The gold on the left side is 1992, just under 2,500 pastoral charges. Blue in the center, 1,976 pastoral charges. And they show a drastically different degree of shift from any of the previous. And with those numbers, the statistical prediction or projection would indicate just a moderate shift that it would continue, which I am guessing many of you are thinking, well, that couldn't possibly be the case. And we would assume we are right in that the experience of the drop in individual participation has been then not mirrored in a drop as significant in number of pastoral charges, which means we're experiencing a thinning out across the entire church. Obviously notable exceptions, but it's not that one place simply dropped off the map, one place simply dropped off the mat, and other places remained where they were. But that experience of decrease and thinning has become pretty common. And I think it asks us to pay attention to two things that I think are really important when we think about the future. The first is that experience of lack, or that feeling of potential threat about the future, is becoming more normative than not. And again, we have spoken over the course of this weekend about what happens to human behavior when we are in that space of anxiety and that space of threat, the kind of decisions that we make and the kind of decisions we're not able to make there. And what that does to our well-being as individuals and collectively. Because those previous charts, those aren't just numbers, but those are born in the bodies and the hearts of tired volunteers, of burnt out clergy, of so many things. And the second thing that I think this calls us to pay attention to is we can probably anticipate within the next 10 years some sort of tipping point in which the individual participation catches up with the number of pastoral charges. And the risk there is that we could very quickly see very large swaths of the country without a united church presence. And chances are folks can already name where that is the present, or where that is the case within the region that you call home. Now, this is important, not because we believe that our brand is better than all the other brands, but if we go back to our theological reflection and those things that we believe we have been called to embody in our time and place, when we remember what folks have said both this morning and last night about, in some places, being the only left of center space in many, many communities, that a lot is at stake, and that without proactive thought, and one of the things I'm just so thrilled to be in your presence for is thinking about how leadership within this region is already taking proactive thought and saying, well, this part of the province and this part of the province, it is so important that the United Church be present there. I wonder how all of this mirrors your experience and your understanding of the church as a whole, a church that is seeking to continue the story of Jesus, to love what he loved, to live what he taught, and to strive to be faithful servants of God in our time and place. I wonder what it feels like to look at those numbers, to look at those bars. And I think it is natural to have all sorts of feelings, to even as we seek to hold them in a space, okay, what do they tell us about what is possible about the future? That also holding some discouragement, holding some despair is a very normal place. Can we just pause? A loving God who loves so deeply the people who have watched this with worry, with anxiety, who have felt it within their bodies, who want to be hopeful, who want to think forward, but who find that honestly very, very difficult. God who loves us so much and is with us in that. Help us to hold lament for the way this has impacted places and people that we love. And help us always also find where lament might give way to hope, not to a belief that everything's going to be okay, but to a conviction that it is worth it to find where we are called to be in the midst of that. Amen. I'm going to continue for a bit from the data. In worship today, we were invited not to make our focus about what is missing, but about what is abundant. And we were reminded that we are promised that living water will flow, but we were not promised that nothing will change. The numbers of human beings who currently live out their discipleship of Jesus through the United Church is significantly fewer than it was 20 years ago. And so it makes supporting the structures and the visions that were designed 20 years ago increasingly challenged. But the number of people who live out their discipleship of Jesus within the United Church of Canada is actually pretty amazing. There are actually a lot of people within the United Church who are seeking to continue the story of Jesus in their time and place. And we have heard so many times throughout the weekend how important that is in the lives of the communities that they find themselves in. We can recognize and name that the shifts in numbers the numbers that they represent have been born in exhaustion and discouragement, and that sticks with us individually and collectively. But perhaps we can also seek to live in an identity. Sometimes I think we think of ourselves as a once large church that is not who we are meant to be anymore. And I think that carrying that around with us is not going to serve us in the future. If we understand the United Church of Canada to have been a failed big Canadian project, what instead would it mean for us to be the size that we are, with the resources that we have? And what can we do? What are we called to do with those resources? And to live into the call that we've been given and to seek to reach out to our neighborhoods, not to correct that which has happened, but to live out the deep call which we have been given. A smaller united church is no less called to faithful witness and no less empowered by the Spirit. And perhaps this moment will ask us to lean into those things more than we once thought was needed when we were a church that looked differently. So many pieces of paper. If we are to begin our hope for the future of the United Church with terms like these, inspired, resilient communities of disciples present in rural and urban spaces from coast to coast, we can see from the data that there are some areas that need attention, that perhaps without the proper attention, our call to be present in both rural and urban spaces can be compromised. That our call that communities of faith would be bold and would be resilient We might think about inspired as being living out the call and vision of the United Church, a call to deep spirituality, to bold discipleship, to daring justice. Or perhaps there are other words that sound more true for us, perhaps the words of a new creed. People who are called to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, and to proclaim Jesus crucified and risen. And if we understand that resilience means the sense of having enough, not needing to be anxious about that one crisis. The number of times that I have spoken to members of a community of faith in this role, and I say, how are things going? And like, well, as long as the boiler doesn't go. Or as long as so-and-so, who's our largest giver, doesn't pass away. This is not a space where we are a resilient community. This is not a space where our minds are freed up to discern what the Spirit is calling us to do. And so as we gather into this conversation about the future, what we need to hear and what we need to discern are what supports are needed and what conversations need to happen, both within particular communities and I think even more so within groupings of communities in particular geographies. If we were to see such communities of the United Church present, not just in some spaces where the conditions happen to be favorable, but spread across our regions and our country in such a way that we are differently, but able to serve the wide breadth of Canadians in different spaces, to follow God's lead in these spaces, what would we need to do so? As we think about diversity and ensuring the presence of all generations, what creative thinking needs to happen to respond to what we're perceiving in the movement of the Spirit? A decisive focus of denominational work to support ministries of community of faith, and an attempt that the work of the denomination be increasingly coordinated and happen at the right level is essential. Supporting discernment within individual communities and within collectives to discern how they might respond, not with isolation and overwhelming, but to imagining connections that are cooperative and collaborative, and that allow resources to be used in a way that makes sense. And a whole church that is more collectively reflective of Canada's diversity will ask us to support intercultural capacity, and a church that includes the presence of all generations will need to support and invest in First Third ministry. And I wouldn't be true to my role within the growth department without the need to learn to strengthen our invitation, to tell the story that we carry in ways that speak to our neighbors. The stats around no religion doesn't tell the whole story, because people are indeed looking for places of belonging. People are looking for places where they can create meaning. People are looking and longing for places where they can hear and share stories. And people are experiencing this moment of colliding polycrises of our world and are asking what sort of space, what sort of community can hold them in that. And carrying a vision of creation healed and restored, we welcome all in the name of Christ, invited to a table where none should go hungry, where we gather as Christ's friends. I've called towards 2035 a conversation, and I really pray that it will be. I pray that what I am presenting here is not meant to be received as something that is given and then simply received or responded to, but that it sketches some contours for some national themes common across the country that individual places can then find their home in. This conversation about what God is calling and asking and inviting the United Church towards is first a question for local spaces, I believe. Is first a question where people live out their discipleship in the places that they call home. The role of the denomination, regional and nationally, is to support that conversation and to offer accompaniment in the midst of that. There will be no doubt things that arise and that call for our collective action. And so the question was, what's towards 2035? It's the beginning of a conversation that I hope will guide us towards the beginning of our next 100 years of the United Church of Canada. So thanks for the opportunity to be with you, and I'll turn it back to Trina.
So we have a bit of time for questions. So does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask?
Yeah. We only have two.
I was wondering where the statistics information that you have nicely displayed, where that's available online.
So materials, versions of that are going to be accessible to support local conversations is being developed so that you can get that for yourself.
I think there's a letter that just went out, right? There's just a letter that came out just this week from Michael Blair that is starting to introduce the Toward 2035 initiative across the church. No other questions?
Oh, there we go.
There you
Dave
go.
Holmes, St. Andrews Lacombe. Is there some kind of an imagined shape to the congregation? Like what kind of form does this, do you have any idea how we are going to have this conversation?
A shape to the conversation? Oh, yeah. Did you want me to? Yeah. One of the things that's being created is a guide that could both would have resources for leadership at a local congregation to have that conversation within themselves, or for a community ministry and its leadership, camp, chaplaincy, something else, to have a conversation within themselves, but then also a secondary template for having a conversation with either other congregations, other community ministries in a particular geography. So the hope is that resources that are created in partnership nationally and regionally will be available. Still figuring out whether that's coming from through regions, most likely, to then invite people to pick that up and take their own form to that. Does that help? Yeah. A big PDF document is the short answer.
And we'll be resourcing conversations throughout the region. So Karen Medland, Joel Denhan, and myself will be putting our heads together and figuring out the best way to engage, in this regional context, to have some of these conversations. And really the conversations that we've already been having at the executive are, we're well ahead of the curve in terms of this conversation, because we've been engaged in it for quite some time. So there's probably other places across the country where they're not as far along. So we'll be able to adapt to our context and then go from there. Cecile?
Cecile Fawcett from St. Andrews Lacombe. I'm wondering how this connects, or if it connects, to the goal of 100 new communities of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. As a person in whose staff portfolio the possibility of new communities of faith lives, I very much hope that it does. The hope that I see in this is that as we have a clearer sense about where God is calling us to be, then the why we would seek to create new communities of faith and where we would seek to create them and amongst who we would seek to create them becomes a lot clearer. And I think that has been one of the challenges with that possibility up to now is to say, like, what role might those play? We've already seen that some of them have been created in response to great interest from migrant Christian communities that are coming into Canada. And so that has been a clear sense of leading from the Spirit in a clear direction. But apart from that, this, I think, is really going to put that into context and is going to invite us to think, what resources are we going to have to mobilize if we want to make that a reality? And how do we hold that alongside of the other things that we have been named? So very closely linked.
Yeah, Barry Clayton, McDougall, Calgary. In this discussion of the visioning over the next 10 years or how we might evolve, will there be space for discussion of the deployment of resources, capital resources that will be freed up with the collapse of the need for facilities?
So the property question is at the regional level, but there is conversation between the two courts and a recognition of the need for resources to support this initiative. So there's conversations, but not answers. The other piece I think that would be important to highlight at this point is we're also engaged in a review of the restructuring, and some of those questions are connected with that review as well. So there was a survey that will have come to communities of faith and ministry personnel in your inbox this week. It's really, really, really important that everybody fill that out, because that's one of the ways that we can feed into how we're structured and what we can do to adapt and change as we live into this new way of being and as we think forward.
I have two questions. Looking at those stats, they showed like how many givers we have, but do they show, is there eventually going to be a spreadsheet that has the rate people are giving? So like the amount donation per person, because like back in the day when we had 1,000 kids in Sunday school, everybody gave $5. But now you have people that are giving $100 every week. So is that tracked anywhere? Would be the first question.
Yeah, at a local community of faith level, looking to Vicky, I think that we can run some of those numbers for you through stewardship.
We can't nationally. Yeah. When you report to stats, you just give us a total number and a total of donations. We can look at par givers specifically. We have access to that, but we don't actually have the breakdown in exactly who gives how much. Okay. Does that make sense? So,
or like the rate that's given every year over the years.
Yeah. So in my work with communities of faith, I ask them to do that work themselves and look at sort of who's giving, top levels and stuff. But that's not currently the statistics form does not ask for that information.
Okay. And then my second question is on there. You show like our Sunday school programs. I have parents that aren't comfortable sending their kids to the basement anymore. So I do family programs. Is that going to be reflected in the thing of like, there isn't the traditional Sunday school, but there is intergenerational family programs that allow children to still have a space, but it's not the traditional Sunday school?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. We're not looking to track that statistically. So the statistics are seeking, although there is we can talk about the stats form, but there is a spot where you can do that. In terms of what we're trying to offer for the church, we're not trying to tell the church through data everything about the church. We're trying to give a broad picture to support the kind of discernment. I would say that what you're telling from just even what you're describing there, that you're already responding to what that data shows us in beautiful ways. And if always thrilled to talk stats forms. So let's
but I'm just looking at that sheet and it's like, it looks like Sunday school is so small and people will take that as there's no children. But in reality, there's no Sunday school program, but there's other places the children are involved. So is there a way to show that there are still young people?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're going to close off the questions after the line.
Yeah, in fact, we're at lunchtime right now, and so the people that were at the mic when I know this. People who were at the mic when I came up here are the ones that we can have questions from, which I think is Taylor and sorry. So we have one from each mic. Sorry about that. If you have other questions, absolutely. There are people who can answer them, but we'll have two more questions. Taylor, thank you.
Taylor Croissant, Southminster Lethbridge. Just wondering whether this work is being informed by the General Council 44 proposal that came from this regional council, Chinook Wind 02, initiating dialogue on church union.
I have raised it, that it needs to be in the conversation, and there are conversations included about ecumenical ministries and ecumenical shared ministries. There hasn't been anything specific around union, but the conversations
ecumenically are happening, and I have flagged it, that it needs to be included because that proposal was put forward. The proposal was for discussion, so.
Lynn McKinnon from Didsbury and Olds United Church. I'm watching the images and listening. I get reminded of the Christmas Carol and, oh, Spirit, is this what is to come or what has to be? Is this kind of a, not a warning, but kind of a, hey, wake up, and or this is what's going to happen? Like, is this something we should be acting on, like, now to try and change?
I mean, so yes, yes. Yes, 100%. And also I want us to caution that what we're not trying to do in this proposal is say the past was better than the future, and we're trying to regain, a sense of the United Church. We are seeking to live deeply into the call of the United Church. I think it was beautifully reflected in what your executive member said of this deep burning within us to live and embody the gospel in our places. This is what we are seeking to do. It's not that we once had more franchises than Tim Hortons. We're worried we won't have more franchises than Tim Hortons in the future, and we're kind of embarrassed about that. And we want to once again have more franchises than Tim Hortons. So yes, we are 100% trying to create a change. Not a reversal, but a recharting.
Thank you.
Okay, Amy, you're the last.
And Barbara, could you make your way up here for Grace while she's asking the question?
I actually have a comment, not a question, if that's okay. And I'm reading something that I've written for the good of our church. At this moment, the Holy Spirit sees fit to blow rebels, doubters, Black and brown peoples, and the spiritually wounded into the halls of seminaries all over North America. I have no doubt she has a purpose in that. Ecclesial and academic institutions must take seriously the trend of who it is that is showing up to offer our hearts to the thing you say is dying. Our faith is incubated by the paradox of already, not yet. We have come up knowing the house is on fire. For us, the house has been on fire since our ancestors were stolen off shores to board ships. We know well the kingdom of God is fully here as promised and pronounced, and yet still coming. Our faithfulness is as much a propellant for our persistence as comfort. We are bringing medicine for healing that lives in the depths of our bones. Medicine that contextualizes God's work in the world in life-giving ways. Beyond offering us a seat at your tables, the Academy and the church must sit as a guest at our tables and swallow. Bitter greens may be served up, but our granny's been cooking enough of them for a long spell, and they've been simmered with love. Inviting marginalized women to the table is one thing, but I'm saying they have their own tables. My grandmother had her own table, she was the host, and we were the guests. Being a good guest is something that the dominant culture would do well to learn and embrace. Because surviving Blackness allows us to summon presence of mind, empathy, independent thinking, conviction, comfort in isolation, work ethic, resourcefulness, bravery, focus, leadership, perseverance, community, charisma, problem solving, and faith. I believe that Black-centered prophetic stories, practices, music, and ministries can be salvific for the Canadian mainline church. I hope you'll read more. I hope I'll be able to publish my writing, but that's the core of my belief for this church. Maybe so.
Thank you, Amy, for those words.
Just do one thing.
All right, you remember earlier this morning I said we're going to say happy 100th anniversary or whatever, and David Pollard was going to come up with better words. Oh, okay. So it's going to be Happy 100th United Church of Canada is what we're going to say, okay? Is there a camera, or can we just get a phone camera or something and all say it from here? How does that? Listen, when
Are we supposed to be meeting as a group? Online people or something?
No,
Yeah.
I think we just got lost again.
You know, somebody help me. I just missed that. I got a phone call. I had to talk to somebody. I missed that whole general council uh, report. Can somebody tell me what just happened?
Was that the retrospective looking from 1992 or something up to, and then 1923, and then looking at 19 or 2000, pardon me, I'm in the wrong thing here, 2023 and then up to 2020, 35, and seeing the statistics of the trends, and then, talk about proactive and not thinking of it as, there we go.
As we have at National, we have an affirming committee which has been working over the past year, connecting with all regions. To go even further, we had a trans woman on our executive for a number of years. She was from Northern Ontario, sorry. And I have been in discussion by email over the past couple of weeks with a trans woman who attempted to join the women's group in her church and was, in her words, kicked out. She is now meeting with the president of her UCW area to go to a United Church tomorrow, that's all been arranged, and join a UCW as she needs women's support. The women of the National UCW are hoping to bring a proposal to every region in the United Church next year. Some of the regions are acknowledging the contributions to the church by having a UCW rep on their regional council. This is mostly Ontario and East. The first women's meeting was held in Toronto in a United Church in October of 1925. We have been around a long time. I would be interested to know how many women here today have attended a UCW meeting. Thank you. Thank you. This makes me wonder why some people are so against the UCW that they would like to see us closed down. And that's the rumors that have been going around, that we're closing down. We're not. It's not going to happen in my watch. That's right. National UCW always have projects. We have had Women for Change, where we paid for school fees, beds, and trained the women there in Africa. we had Morangoro, where we paid to have midwives trained to go back to their own villages to stop the number of stillbirths that were there. So, and that's money is still coming in. Right now, our project is the Healing Fund. It is run through the National Church, but the UCW funds are kept separate, and the funds are used for women and children according to our mandate. So they don't go to the tribal leaders. We have people who look after this, and they go directly to the women and children. And that's what we're all about. And then you can go and fill your stomachs. Lord, we ask your blessing on the hands that grew the food, the hands that prepared our meal, and our body and souls to continue with your work. Amen. There. You gave me 5 minutes.
All right, we're back at 1:30. 1:30. Look at that's an hour. Choir will be practicing first and then eating. Hopeful, ever hopeful.
Yeah, this is for my special one. On a special day. Yeah, 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 yeah. Shade on. My